There's a rule in this town, one that doesn't appear on any map, doesn't make the tourist brochures, and sure as hell isn't in any welcome packet. Don't open the door after midnight. Not on that night. Most people around here don't speak about it. Not during the day, not even with family. But when the wind starts to shift, cold, strange, like it's breathing just a little too heavy, and the shadows stretch a bit too long down Sycamore Street, those who know start preparing. They don't call it Halloween. They don't call it All Souls Night. They just call it the return. Because once a year, at exactly 12 a.m., the dead claw their way back from wherever we left them. Not all of them, just the hungry ones. Just the ones who still have an address burned into the bones of their hands. The ones who died angry, or confused, or starved. The ones who remember your name. The first time it happened to me, I was 7. My parents didn't explain much. They just rushed around the house at sunset, pulling down every picture frame, stuffing family albums into black plastic bags. My dad salted the windows. My mom locked the mirrors. I didn't understand why they were crying. I didn't understand why they taped up the mail slot and whispered prayers they didn't believe. And then, the knock. 3 slow taps. Not rushed, not hesitant, like someone who'd knocked on that door 1,000 times before. I remember standing in the hallway, barefoot on the cold floor while my mother mouthed, "Don't move, don't speak, don't even breathe." And outside, the thing with my grandfather's voice kept saying, "I know you're in there. I came home. I'm hungry." We didn't open the door. Someone else on the street did. I don't know who, but I still remember the screams, the wet ones. Some things in this town you just absorb by osmosis. You don't need a school to teach you. The knowledge comes buried in the soil, scratched into the trees, whispered through cracked window panes. The dead will always come home, but they don't come back for hugs. They come back for heat, for flesh, for that one final meal they never got. I've survived 9 return nights. You're here reading this because you want to survive your first. So listen carefully. These are the rules. The town won't save you. The cops won't help you. And if you screw this up, if you get even one of them wrong, you won't be around long enough to ask what you did wrong. Let's begin. Tip 1. Never answer a knock after midnight. It doesn't matter what they say. It doesn't matter who they sound like. If someone knocks on your door after midnight, don't answer it. That's how they get in. The hungry dead can't cross thresholds uninvited. They can rattle the doorknob. They can scratch the wood until splinters fall like confetti. They can whisper through the mail slot in the exact voice of someone you loved. But unless you open that door, unless you invite them in, they're nothing more than a nightmare waiting in the dark. And they hate that. They remember their old lives. That's the worst part. They remember what it was like to live in that house. They remember birthdays and arguments and the smell of burnt toast in the morning. They remember the name of your dog, the shape of your front steps, the creak in the 3rd floorboard from the left. They'll use every bit of that knowledge to make you feel safe, familiar, guilty. You'll hear them cry. You'll hear your brother's voice saying, "Please let me in. It's cold out here. Or your daughter saying, "I don't understand what's happening. Why won't you open the door?" You'll hear your mother's laugh, exactly the way it used to sound, telling you everything's going to be okay. But they're not here to talk. They're here to feed. The knock comes 3 times, always 3. Never more, never less. The town says that's their warning shot. It's the only grace they give you. If you make it past those 3 knocks, if you keep the lights off and your mouth shut, they'll usually move on to the next house, to the next sucker who doesn't know better. But if you open that door, you're not going to die fast. That would be a blessing. They take their time. They like to explore your insides. They like to see if the memories are still in your blood. And when they're done, when they've finished tasting your spine and scooping out your eyes, they sit in your favorite chair. They rock, they hum, and they wait for the next one. The worst part, they look just like the person you miss most, but they're not them, not anymore. So if the clock hits midnight and someone knocks on your door, don't speak, don't move, and above all, never answer it. Tip 2, remove all photos from the walls. Before the sun goes down, walk through your home and take every photograph off the walls, every frame, every album, every goddamn kindergarten class picture and wedding portrait. Don't stop until the walls are bare and the house feels like a stranger's. Because the dead remember their faces. They don't come back whole, not really. They return in pieces, fragments of a life they once lived, stitched together with rot and rage. But when they see themselves, when they catch a glimpse of who they used to be, something clicks. Something breaks through the hunger, just long enough to make things worse. Worse how? They remember you. They remember the smile they gave you in that photo by the lake, the one where their arm was around your shoulder and the light caught just right. They remember birthdays and Christmases and hospital beds. They remember what it meant to be loved and what it meant to die alone. And they blame you for that. That's when the knocking stops and the scratching starts. When they stop asking to be let in and start demanding it. You'll hear them dragging their bones across the siding, tearing at the corners of the house like they're peeling an orange, trying to crawl through places no human body should ever fit. I made this mistake once. I missed one photo, just one, a little black and white picture tucked behind a magnet on the fridge, me and my sister in matching Halloween costumes. She was a ghost, I was a vampire. We were laughing. That night, I heard her laughing again, but it was wrong. It came through the vents, through the sink drains. It sounded like something wet trying to force joy through a broken throat. I found her face pressed to the window, staring at that photo with eyes that didn't blink, skin like shredded cloth. Her jaw had been torn off somewhere along the way, but that didn't stop the sound, the laughter, like it was stitched into the wind. I burned the photo, right there on the stovetop. Flames kissed her image, and within seconds, the laughter stopped. She was gone. Don't take the risk. Don't assume they'll never remember that one. They will. They remember everything. Strip your walls bare. Hide the photos. Burn them if you have to. Because once they see themselves, they'll start looking for you. And they'll be starving. Tip 3. Salt the window sills twice. You don't just do it once. You don't just toss a handful and call it good. You salt the windowsills twice. Once before sunset and again after full dark. If you only do the first round, the salt goes stale by the time they rise. Do only the second, and they'll already be watching from the tree line, deciding which window they'll crawl through first. It has to be both. No exceptions. Use coarse sea salt. The bigger the crystals, the better. Not that table shit you shake on fries. It needs weight, grain with memory. Old salt, if you can get it. Ask the town butcher. He keeps a jar from the lake beds, left behind by something older than even the hungry dead. He won't give it to you easily. You'll need to trade something personal. But that's another tip. The first salting is a warning. Think of it like drawing a line in the sand. It tells them you're aware, that you remember what night it is, that you haven't forgotten their names or the sound of their teeth cracking against the front step last year. It lets them know they're not welcome, but it's not enough to stop them. The second salting is the shield. You do it slowly, methodically, no lights on, candlelight only. Start with the room farthest from the front door and move counterclockwise. That part's important. If you go clockwise, you invite them in without realizing it. The direction matters. They're old things, ancient rules. Follow them or die confused. As you press the salt down, whisper a name, any name, but it has to be one of theirs, not someone you love, not someone alive. Speak the name of the dead. Speak it like you're holding a blade to your own tongue. They'll hear it. They'll pause. They'll wonder how you know. And that hesitation, that flicker of confusion, is your one advantage. I've seen what happens when someone forgets the second salting. I remember the Wilson house 3 years ago. Big family, nice porch. They forgot the back window in the laundry room. Just one. The salt was never laid. They found Mrs. Wilson folded inside the dryer. No bones left, just her skin, turned inside out like a jacket, still warm. He got in through the window. It only takes one mistake. So don't rush. Don't skip. Don't trust that thin pane of glass to protect you. The dead remember how to use windows. And when they're hungry, they'll squeeze through any crack you leave behind. Tip 4. Lock every mirror in the house. You probably don't think of mirrors as doors. That's your first mistake. Mirrors are where the dead watch us from inside out. Not reflections, remnants. Glass holds memories better than any photograph. It remembers who stood in front of it, what they wore, what they were feeling when they looked at themselves. And when the dead return, that's what they slip through. Memories thick enough to touch. That's why you need to lock your mirrors. I don't mean hang a towel over them and call it a night. That only works if they haven't noticed you yet. But once they see movement, once they catch a glimpse of a living breath fogging up their side of the glass, They will find a way through, and they don't need much room. Just a crack, a sliver of your reflection in the hallway mirror is enough. So what do I mean by lock? You'll need 3 things: a candle, a needle, and something made of your own blood. Light the candle in front of the mirror. Touch the flame with the tip of the needle, just long enough to blacken it. Then press it to your finger and draw a tiny drop of blood. You don't need much, just enough to smear across the top right corner of the mirror while saying, "Not yours, not now, not ever." That seals it. You'll see the surface shimmer just for a second, like breath on cold glass. After that, you're safe, at least from that one. Now do the rest. Every bathroom, every vanity, every hallway panel, even the tiny one at the back of the medicine cabinet. Leave one unlocked, and that's the one they'll use. Every time. Like they can feel the absence of protection. Like they smell it. And if you don't, you won't die right away. That's the problem. You'll see them first, in your reflection, standing just behind you, grinning with someone else's teeth. Not your loved ones, not your enemies, someone in between, someone hungry. Then they reach through. They'll drag you back through the mirror with them, into a place that doesn't reflect anything, just dark and screams and a dozen hands clawing at your skin from the inside out. We lost a girl that way 5 years ago. Paige Miller, 16, forgot to cover the mirror behind her closet door. Her mother heard her whispering to someone all night long, thought she was on the phone. In the morning, Paige was gone, but her reflection was still there. It smiled at us. So lock them, every last one, because if you can see them, they can already see you. Tip 5. Burn something they loved. If the dead are circling your house, if you hear them on the roof, or see their fingers curled around your windowsill like frostbite reaching inward, there's only one way to stall them. You need to burn something they loved, not something they owned. Something they loved. The more sentimental, the more effective. A letter they reread until the ink faded. A baby blanket they never threw away. That old, ugly sweater they wore every Christmas, no matter how hot the fire was burning. Something saturated with memory. Because the hungry dead don't just want flesh. They want what was taken from them. They want to feel again. When you burn something meaningful, the smoke distracts them. It tugs at what little humanity is left in their bones. For a few minutes, they hesitate. They slow down. Sometimes they even sit and stare at the rising ash, swaying gently, like they're listening to a lullaby only they can hear. I've done it twice. Once with my grandmother's perfume bottle, still half full, even after all these years. I shattered it and set it ablaze in a tin pan over the stovetop. The scent filled the room, thick and sweet and sad. I swear I saw her shadow pause on the back porch. She didn't knock. She didn't scratch. She just stood there, watching the smoke, almost like she wanted to say goodbye. The second time wasn't so peaceful. It was my friend Darren. He died in a crash just a few months before the return. I burned his guitar strap. It had his name stitched in it, and the thing reeked of cigarettes and sweat and old concerts. The moment the leather curled in the fire, he screamed, not from outside, from inside my living room wall. He came for the sound, for the heat, for the pain. It didn't stop him, it dragged him closer. That's the risk. Sometimes the smoke makes them mourn, sometimes it makes them rage. But either way, it buys you time. And in this game, time is everything. So pick carefully, burn wisely. Because when the dead come home hungry, the smell of memory is the only thing that competes with the scent of living flesh. Tip 6. Don't sleep in your own bed. It sounds like harmless superstition, like something your paranoid uncle might say after too many drinks. But this one's gospel. Do not sleep in your own bed, not on the night they come home. The hungry dead don't wander aimlessly. They're not lost. They're not confused. They remember. Their minds may be broken, decayed, but their instincts are sharp. They follow patterns, rituals burned into muscle memory. They go where they used to go. They seek out the comfort they were torn from. And more than anything, they want to lay down where they once felt safe. Which means they're coming for your bed. I don't just mean a childhood mattress or the one you grew up in. I mean your current bed, the one you've been curling into night after night, in the same room, with the same creaky floorboard by the door. They know the scent of your sheets, the shape of your body pressed into the mattress. They follow it like sharks follow blood. And when they find it empty, they wait. They crawl under it. They slide inside the closet. They press themselves into the corners of the room and hold still, patient as stone. And then they listen for footsteps, for the weight of a body returning, for the slow exhale of sleep. You won't see them at first. You'll get in bed and feel cold, but you'll tell yourself it's just the night air. You'll roll over and swear something shifted in the dark, but you'll chalk it up to your imagination. Then the sheet will lift ever so slightly, and by the time you realize it's not the wind, you're already in their arms. Sleep somewhere else. Not just another bed, somewhere unexpected. The attic, the basement, the tub. I once knew someone who duct taped themselves into the pantry and lined the door with salt. Survived just fine. Came out shaking, but alive. There's no dignity in survival, only strategy. And in a house full of memories, your bed is a beacon. So don't be predictable. Don't be nostalgic. And whatever you do, don't close your eyes where they remember you sleeping, because they're tired too. Tired of the cold, tired of the dirt, tired of being dead. And they're looking to crawl back in. Tip 7. Dogs bark, cats stare. Listen to both. You want a warning system? Forget alarms. Forget motion lights and cameras. All you need is a dog and a cat, and the sense to actually pay attention to them. Because animals see what we don't. When the dead come home, they don't walk in with a trumpet blast. They don't drag chains or announce themselves like a cliche. They creep. They curl around corners. They leak into places you didn't even know your house had. You won't hear them coming, not at first, but your pets will. Dogs bark. They bark like their soul is on fire. Not like they want to scare something off, but like they're begging you to run. When it starts, it'll be sudden. No growl, no warning. Just a blind frenzy of noise at the window, or the closet, or the basement door. And when that barking stops, that's when you're already too late. Because dogs bark at what's outside, but cats stare at what's already inside. I've seen it too many times. A cat perched on the edge of a shelf, body still as stone, eyes locked on something that shouldn't be there. You follow their gaze and see nothing, just shadows and walls. But look closer. Wait long enough. You might catch a shape that's almost human, a sliver of movement in a place where there's no room for it. I once survived the night because my cat wouldn't stop watching the hallway mirror, wouldn't blink, wouldn't move, just stared and made that low, rattling sound deep in her chest. I covered the mirror, salted the floor, heard something claw at the other side of the glass for 6 hours straight. She saved me. Most people ignore their animals. They assume it's nerves, instinct, nothing serious. But pets don't make that kind of noise for no reason, not on return night. If your dog starts barking and won't stop, don't try to calm him, don't scold him. Look where he's looking, prepare to run. And if your cat starts staring at something that isn't there, don't brush it off, don't blink. Because cats don't just see the dead. They wait to see what the dead will do. Trust them. They don't lie. And on a night like this, they're the only ones still loyal to the living. Tip 8. Use the oven, just not for cooking. It sounds ridiculous, I know. The oven? In the middle of a nightmare like this? But the dead fear fire, not because it hurts them, it doesn't. Not really, but because it reminds them. It reminds them of what came after death. The flames, the furnaces, the crematoriums, the burning houses they couldn't escape, the candles lit beside their coffins that burned long after everyone forgot their names. Fire is the only thing that makes them hesitate. So here's what you do. You use the oven. You crank it up as high as it'll go. Doesn't matter if it's gas or electric. Turn that dial until the inside glows orange. Then, and this is important, you crack the oven door just slightly, wide enough for the heat to pour out, but not enough to trip the safety features. Stuff a damp towel along the floor just beneath it, drenched in alcohol, lighter fluid, even cheap cologne if that's all you've got, and let it smolder, not burn, smolder. The smoke will rise, slow, whisper thin, but the smell, that's what gets them. Something about burned fabric soaked in accelerant makes them pause. They don't understand it, and fear, even in the undead, is just hesitation waiting to happen. Set it up in the kitchen, or wherever the house narrows, a hallway, a choke point. Somewhere you can funnel them into the heat without giving them a way around it. You're not trying to kill them, not with this. You just want to buy yourself time, a few minutes. That's all you'll get. But sometimes a few minutes is the difference between boarding the last window and having your lungs sucked out through your ribs. And if the house catches fire, good. Because better a house swallowed in flames than you. Better the wallpaper peels and the floorboards shriek and the firemen find nothing but ash than for them to find your organs still twitching. your skin nailed to the ceiling like a wet coat. They won't follow you through flame. Not if it's hot enough, not if it smells like them. Just don't stand too close to the heat. I've seen what happens when someone does. The dead mistake you for one of them, and they'll walk right past the fire to pull you into it. Tip 9. Don't trust the graves. You might think the graves are safe. Neatly lined rows, marble stones polished by rain, names fading to moss and dust. You might think the dead stay buried. They don't. Graves aren't barriers, they're invitations. The soil doesn't trap them, it feeds them. Roots wrap through rib cages. Worms carve tunnels through skulls. Every year that passes, the ground teaches them something new about how to rot slower, move quieter, survive longer. And when they come home, they don't always bother clawing their way up through 6 feet of dirt. Some of them learned how to wait. Some learned how to pretend. You see a grave that looks undisturbed, flowers still standing, dirt still tamped flat. You assume everything underneath is at rest. But if the dirt's been disturbed, if the ground looks too soft, too cracked, if the headstone seems off somehow, tilted when it wasn't before, the name a little harder to read, the engraving worn thin overnight, that grave is lying to you. It means something already dug its way out, or worse, something dug its way deeper. Some of them like to tunnel. They move under the streets, under your house, finding the weak places between foundation stones and forgotten basement drains. They find the low places, the wet places, the cracks you stopped noticing years ago. And when the knocking stops, when the windows stay still and the door stays locked, that's when you realize they're already inside. I remember the old cemetery by Mill Creek, the year of the bad winter, when the ground froze too hard for the dead to dig through. Everyone thought we were safe. They only buried one man that autumn, a drifter, no family, no history. By the time spring came, 17 homes had been gutted from the inside. They found the tunnel later. It started beneath his grave, a soft, wet mouth of dirt that led right into the sewer system, right under the town square. Don't trust graves. Don't trust coffins. Half the time they're empty anyway, ripped open from the inside, wood splintered like kindling. The dead don't need markers to find their way back. They don't need permission. They only need an address and a hunger that doesn't care what stands in their way. You want to live through the night? Stay off the cemetery roads. Stay away from the old stones. And if you see fresh dirt where there wasn't any before, run. Tip 10. When the sun rises, don't celebrate yet. You made it. The sky begins to shift from black to bruised purple. The birds, what few still nest here, start singing again. The wind lightens, the silence breaks, and for the first time in hours you feel like you might live. Don't. Not yet. The biggest mistake people make isn't forgetting to lock the doors or failing to salt the windows. It's relaxing too early. The hungry dead hate the light. That's true. But the light doesn't kill them. It just pushes them back. sends them crawling beneath porches, into drains, under floorboards and tree roots and crawl spaces, places where the sun doesn't reach, places where they can wait just a little longer. Some of them don't leave at all. They've learned to fake it, learned to still their breathing, slow their twitching limbs, wear the skin of the ones you thought you lost. They sit quiet, they watch, and sometimes they wait at the kitchen table. You'll come downstairs thinking it's over, eyes half closed, exhausted, aching, maybe even laughing with relief. And there they are, looking just like they used to, smiling that old smile, holding a mug of coffee that's still warm. And they'll say something like, "Rough night," or "I think we made it," or worse, "I never left." And the part of you that wants to believe them, that part will get you killed, because it's not over. Not until you've checked everything. Not until the mirrors are uncovered. The oven's been turned off. The ashes have cooled. And most importantly, not until you've confirmed who's still alive and who never should have been. Check your house, every room, every shadow, every hallway that feels too quiet. Look at your family. Watch their eyes. Do they blink too slowly? Are their feet bare when they always wore socks? Do they avoid mirrors? Flinch at the smell of smoke? Then ask yourself, were they ever really with you during the night? Because sometimes the dead don't knock. They don't scream or claw or wail at your windows. Sometimes they just come in when you forget to relock the back door. And when the sun rises, they sit quietly, smiling, waiting, still hungry. If you're listening to this with a heartbeat still thudding in your chest, congratulations, you survived. Most don't. But don't let that relief fool you into thinking it's over. It never ends. The return comes every year, like a holiday, like a curse. Some believe it's tied to the moon. Others say it's the anniversary of something ancient clawing its way into our world for the first time. Doesn't matter. The result is always the same. The dead come home, and they come back hungry. They remember the door they knocked on, the voice that ignored them, the smell of fear leaking through the walls, and they remember who escaped. Next year, they won't knock. They'll come smarter, quieter, maybe through the drain, maybe under the bed, maybe in the form of someone you trust. They'll wait for you to slip up, for you to forget one step, one line of salt, one mirror edge unsealed. And when that happens, they'll feast. So here's my final piece of advice. If you survive this year, don't tempt fate again. Move, leave town, burn the house if you can, salt the foundation, smash every mirror, scatter the ashes, leave no trace. Because once they've been to your home, it isn't yours anymore. It's theirs, and next year, they won't come back for an invitation. They'll come back for you. If you're still breathing, go ahead and like the video. Subscribe if you dare. There are plenty more nightmares waiting for you. And whatever you do, don't forget to ring the bell. It's the only way you'll hear the warnings in time.